Welcome, everybody. This is Panfurware LLC. Let that sink in with Brian Walker. All right. Yeah, welcome, everybody. My name is Eric Ziegler. I am a sync licensing agent for Panfurware LLC. I take these songs that we have in our repertoire and I find a home for them. I reach out to showrunners, music supervisors, producers, and if what they need fits what we have, then I make that connection. Anthony, you want to go ahead and do a quick intro on you?
Alrighty. This is Anthony F. here, Panfurware LLC founder. We pivoted our IT consulting company. We wanted to merge technology with music. We created a show called Let That Sink In. We talk to songwriters about their process, and we promote them at the same time across all of our social media. So tonight we're going to talk to Brian Walker.
All right, thank you, Anthony. So let's get started. Brian, welcome.
Hello, how's it going?
It's going well. It's going well. It's good to have you here. Give us kind of a brief intro to yourself. Tell us a little bit about yourself, and then I'll dive in further.
Certainly. So I'm a musician, singer-songwriter, producer. I do all of it. I know a lot of times we live in this world where like people want to say they do one thing, but I do a lot of the things. I'm born and raised in the city of brotherly love, Philadelphia. I'm also a touring musician and a pretty large catalog under the moniker A Day Without Love.
Excellent, excellent. Thank you. Now, kind of tell us about your musical journey, like how everything started. Did you get into music when you were a kid? Like, did you get into it recently? And kind of walk us through your journey as a musician.
Certainly, certainly. So, when it comes to just being introduced to music and the idea of music being a career, I was exposed to that as early as the age of like 4. So my uncle, he's a hip hop DJ and a producer, and he used to work with Larry Gold back in the 90s and things like that. But I didn't really know what that meant back then. I just thought, okay, this guy's name's Larry Gold, and my uncle, spins on block parties, nightclubs, and goes on tour sometimes. And I had other uncles that played guitar. Now, flash forward to when I was 18, I wanted to take my own path and got inspired by singer-songwriters who played in coffee shops at college events. So I picked up a guitar and picked up Guitar for Dummies. And it just was like each semester I grew a little bit more. Like I honed my instrument. I took music lessons independently and in group classes. I learned jazz. I learned folk. I currently take vocal lessons. I started playing in coffee shops, hookah bars, the whole nine. And then before you know it, I'm at South by Southwest in workshops, learning about things like sync, touring, working with different kinds of labels, how to be a more independent artist. And it just kind of feels like, over the past, 9 years of doing A Day Without Love, but just 13, 14 years of just being in music, it was always like one step after the next. Like, currently I'm about to do my first full US tour. What happens after that? I don't know. I'm with Panfurware now. Like, I never thought I'd be in the sync world either. So, I guess that's like a very quick but brief highlight of how I got into music.
Awesome. Yeah, and good luck on your tour, by the way, coming up.
Thank you. Thank you.
I'm sure it's gonna be exciting. That's gonna be fantastic.
Oh,
Anthony,
totally.
I saw you on mute. Did you have anything to add?
No, actually, I was trying to share a clip on Instagram, and Clubhouse kicked me out of the audio. So I have no idea
Oh,
what just happened.
Oh, yeah.
Continue.
No problem at all. Uh, yeah. So, what PRO are you currently with?
Ascap. I honestly, this might sound silly. I never had any hesitation with any other PRO because Ascap like gives a lot of health, not only healthcare benefits like with Music Cares, but like small benefits that like help musicians in the long run. Like people don't speak about this enough, but like um ASCAP has like hotel discounts from 10 to 30% across the entire world. And if you're on tour and your host that was going to host you doesn't come through, especially in this environment with COVID and all, you get a hotel 30% off. So like if the hotel is $100, that's now $70 because of ASCAP. And ASCAP has so many other discounts. And, in my opinion, its UI is like the most friendly of them all. So that's why I joined ASCAP and that's what I'm with. So yeah.
I did not know that. I thought every time that you think you know, you know it all about the PROs or what have you. You learn something new. Anthony, were you aware of that? Were you aware of hotel discounts? Because that is very very useful.
I was, but we didn't have a lot of songwriters that performed, so it wasn't that important. But yeah, ASCAP has great discounts. When you sign in and you look further down, there's like a discount section.
Yep.
Wow, wow, that's incredible. Though now I have to go look at BMI, and I wonder if BMI has any incentives, and if so, what they
Hmm.
are.
They do, but it's like a half. I don't curse. It's like a half a try. you
Oh,
know, it's like just to say that we tried is what it feels. Yeah, it has some real nice stuff.
okay. Okay, but that is definitely good to know, especially for a touring musician. That's where every dollar counts.
Hmm.
Like, especially like starting out where every dollar counts, and you're not sponsored. You don't have. Um, that's extremely useful. Yeah, that's great. Okay, and uh, talk a little bit more. You touched on it, but talk a little bit more about your influences.
Certainly. I feel like my influences are changing like every 3 months, but I do have my bread and butter. So I would say from strictly like rhythm guitar, I have influencers ranging from Tom York of Radiohead to Weezer to Foo Fighters to Hello Goodbye. Like it really ranges in terms of my rhythm. But when it comes to lead, that ranges anywhere from BB King, Curtis Mayfield, Jimi Hendrix, John Mayer, who was influenced by a lot of those guys, uh, Tim Henson. Like it really ranges when it comes. But I'm also an instrumentalist and I play things, but I'm primarily a guitarist, and I would say like my catalog reflects a lot of different records. Like I always tell people, my music as a whole is like if Domino Records, when Arctic Monkeys was coming out and things like that, and folk punk acts of the 90s were coming out and married together, that's kind of like my music. So that's what I would say like my influences are at a high level.
Oh, that's excellent. Yeah, and I'm glad you mentioned BB King in there as well, because that is like I think a lot of people, a lot of guitar players are influenced by BB King maybe without even realizing it. Because
Yeah.
I've heard a lot of I'm a guitar player myself, but I mean BB King was influential to the artists that you may call your
Hmm.
influences, and so a lot of people
Yeah.
don't consider him by extension, but he very much is.
Yeah. Yeah. You're right.
Yeah, and so you also mentioned that you're an instrumentalist.
Hmm.
How do you feel that guitar has kind of influenced how you approach writing with other instruments?
I think it's helped me a lot because initially I kind of heard music as like everything's guitar facing and all the other instruments are just in support. But now that I consider myself an instrumentalist, I understand that as a guitarist, as a musician, as like a bassist, banjo, et cetera, it's really about the mood that the song needs or the parts that the song needs. You know, it's easy to be a guitarist and play a bass like guitar, but that's not like quote unquote what you're supposed to be. It's all about knowing your role. And I think that kind of plays a lot into songwriting. Like, are you writing a song for a project, i.e., like if someone says like I need a poppy feel, then like you might want to be playing more on the synth and using some drum samples as opposed to someone saying I need something grungy, which is when you're gonna, you know, play with your guitar and probably use a real live drum kit. So I think like being an instrumentalist really has allowed me to learn the languages of expression and fulfilling needs for different projects, whether it's like my own project or a project for a client.
I like that. I like that because I hear a lot of guitar players go to piano and they
Mm-hmm.
learn piano, right? And then when they go back to guitar, like they approach guitar entirely differently.
Yep.
Like you hear that a lot with it's piano in particular. Like
Mm-hmm.
just the way that piano I guess is laid out, it almost like rewires their your brain to like approach your like what I would call your main instrument,
Correct.
in a completely different way and like see it as a it almost decentralizes it, almost uncentralizes it to where you're not like okay, guitar is the main instrument. You're thinking of it less as a guitar and more of it as a instrument or a tool, you
Exactly.
know,
Exactly.
amongst a amongst array, especially being in a band amongst amongst array of others. You know, thinking of it more of like the violin and among the entire orchestra,
Mm-hmm. Correct.
moving as one. It's one organism made up of you know you know 100 little ones. So yeah,
Exactly. No, I like that. Yep.
okay. And so how would you describe getting a little bit into the more the marketing side? How would you describe your average fan base? Like how would you describe your target demographic? Your who you try to appeal
Certainly.
to?
I mean, in a perfect world, I would want to appeal to everyone, but that's just not real. um, but I would say, like, based on the environments I surround myself in, the people I connect with in digital spaces as well as physical spaces, I would say like my demographic is like split into a multiple sections. So one, I have, you know, my 15 to 24 demographic, and those are kids that are like about to finish high school to college kids. And a lot of them are kids that are not exactly the ones that fit in, but the ones that are trying to look for some sense of community. And then I would say for my older crowd, those are usually people that like work in politics, work in social work in like some sort of nonprofit world, but are hoping for a more progressive society because my music is as personal as is political. So I would definitely say like that's kind of like my target demographics as opposed to being one. Because I'm the guy that's playing at breweries, coffee shops, house shows, basements, and things like that. So yeah.
Okay. And if you weren't doing music, what would you see yourself doing?
Hmm. Um, I'd probably say I'd be a consultant in the arts, but you said not music, so I can't say in the arts because then I'd end up doing music again. So, outside of music, like I write a lot as well as like work in the HR change management world. So I probably would be writing books and poetry books and things like that, and just working a 9 to 5. I might even start a food blog. Yeah, I might do that too.
Oh yeah, a food blog.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, is that something? Do you enjoy cooking or is it baking or?
I'm a big person who really enjoys cooking, but I also like talking about food. I even do it in my social media on TikTok as well as Instagram. I've done a few food collaborations with people actually. Like my biggest song that I collaborated on was a song called Defend Seltzer. So yeah,
That's amazing. I love that. Um,
thank you.
yeah. So what kind of getting back to music a little bit. What is the best piece of advice that another musician has given you?
Um, be patient and just give it time because like some musicians they blow up in 30 days and also fall in 30 days. But also, some musicians might be touring, recording, submitting for 20 years, and then they'll succeed for 20 years until retirement. And it takes all sorts of walks of life and different kinds of people to create music. And music's not all about blowing up. It's really about connecting. So I probably got like a lot more advice instead of just one quote there. I over answered the question, but that's what I've kind of learned. Like it all takes time, and honing your crafting your gift for the most part. So, yeah.
No, I really like that. And that's very, very true. Um, because I think there are musicians who kind of, you know, um, expect the results quicker, but I mean, it takes time. It takes time, and it takes, hard work, and you have to be patient, especially in the sync world. That we deal with that where musicians will wonder like, oh, how quick am I going to get paid for this, and we have to
Yeah.
tell them, well, it's going to be a little while. So it takes time.
Yeah.
It's and you have to have that patience, but also that confidence in yourself. Because I think something that happens is that when somebody doesn't have that patience, they start doubt. That's more time that goes on, and they start doubting themselves, and they start
Mm,
wondering. The brain starts racing, and they start wondering, oh, is something wrong?
exactly.
So yeah, I mean, I would expound upon your answer a little bit, which and say confidence as well as patience.
Hmm.
That's vital. Um, and how do you balance songwriting with other hobbies that you have, but also taking time for yourself? For your own mental well-being, and how do you kind of balance? How do you find your balance?
I like that question. I do have my like day-to-day activities like, gym and or yoga or just cooking myself a meal, meditating, things like that. But I like to switch into different modes. Like, I think in the past, I used to just write, 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 write. But now I put myself in modes where, like, am I in promo mode or project mode where, like, I'm pushing a song or songs or a tour? Or am I in a mode where, like, I might not be pushing, but I'm just creating? Or is it a project that I need to work on? So I switch myself into different modes and give myself different creative activities and outlets. Because, like, I also have my own podcast, and, like, I'm about to put my podcast on a temporary hiatus only because, I'm moving. I'm moving from Philadelphia to Massachusetts. I'm about to tour for the next 6 to 7 weeks. I'm also traveling for weddings. And, you can't really like you could write songs on the go, but you can't really host a podcast. And the reason why I bring up this podcast is because the same way I treat my podcast, the same way I treat my songwriting. Like, you know, um, I always think about it like there's a time and place for performing, and there's a time and place for creating and recording. And it's like um, me and my partner, like I play to her family on Christmas, right? And when I was younger, I used to use Christmas as a way to avoid family so I could write more music. So using that example, I see Christmas or holidays or events as times to perform, and other times as times to write. And how I schedule that is mostly just by like giving myself a pulse check on what I need to write um, and things like that. So
That's perfect. I really
yeah,
like that
yeah.
answer. Um, Anthony, did you have any? We want to get into your music a little bit, but Anthony, did you have any further questions for Brian?
Um, yeah, yeah. Thanks, Brian, for joining us. I know you have a small window of opportunity. I appreciate
Hmm.
you fitting us in.
For
Um,
sure.
yeah, we talked on Zoom, initially, so I enjoyed
Hmm.
the conversation. You're from Philly. I'm gonna
Hmm.
say I'm in Philly. I'm not
Hmm.
born, but I'm raised in Philly. Um, and your sound, I'm gonna say, is unique because you
Thank you.
know, like I know, yeah, definitely. Like I know, Philadelphia is all about Benny Siegel.
Yes.
you know, and what's the other bull? I forget his name. The young bull.
PD Crack
Uh,
or
Petey Craig. What's the guy that everybody just randomly starts repeating?
Pink Sweat.
Oh wow. Wow. I forget his name, but
Oh, a little
he's
easy.
actually no, not Lil Uzi. The guy that actually now hangs out with the rich people at the sports events and stuff.
Oh, it's not Pink Sweat. I can't think of his name either, but I know who you're talking about.
That's sad. If this ever gets there, I'm sorry. Um, but what made you make alternate rock, alternative rock?
That's a really good question. I did go to a high school where a lot of people were rapping. Um, but I didn't want to do what my uncle was doing, and that was just DJing and working with rappers and things like that. Because like growing up, I did meet a lot of rappers. Some some don't exist anymore. Meaning like they stopped rapping. That sounded really sad. But I think what really led me to wanting to like pick up an instrument and do something and lead to rock was listening to Kurt Cobain and also listening to Jimi Hendrix as a kid and asking myself, how could I do that but put it under my own lens? And then I started listening to other bands like Green Day, like, System of a Down, like the Gorillaz, like all these bands from the 90s and 2000s. And I realized, like, the more as time goes on, there's like these hybrid bands. And I think Gorillaz was definitely one of the first to do it. So I think I will always claim alternative rock because it kind of describes a lot of where I came from. Because like I grew up in West Oak Lane, I have family in North Philly, where like people like Benny Siegel are really big. But I went to school where people were listening to like Good Charlotte and Weezer, and as a kid I didn't understand it. But then once I picked up the guitar, I was like, wait, I should probably talk about the same topics that Benny Siegel's talking about, but do it to the audience that understands Weezer, Green Day, et cetera, et cetera. So I think that's kind of like why I did that. So
Wow, that's cool. Yeah, Meek Mills. I don't know why I couldn't remember Meek Mill's name.
yeah. Oh yeah, yeah.
Um, but, but that's cool. And you hit all the touchstones. Those are the touchstones. Kurt Cobain, the
Mm-hmm.
best, left-handed,
Yeah,
and then you move to Green Day also. Good
yeah,
Charlotte, not you know underrated. Good Charlotte.
yeah,
Pop, what's the genre you call that, Erica? Good Charlotte, a pop, not pop rock, pop punk or something.
yeah. Pop punk. It's more than pop punk.
You,
Yep.
yeah, yeah. So yeah, and I hear that in your music. I definitely hear Kurt Cobain, and
Thank you.
there's nothing wrong with Ye. Hey man, it's the best jazz musicians ever always had somebody that they liked and played all the time until they got their own translation or interpretation of their favorites. And that's what I hear. I hear your translation of the music that you love, that you picked up on, and you made it your own.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
man.